Hey, we are back, or I'm back, I guess. It's
We never left.
You never left. Good point. Session 3 of the Green Book Revival here on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. We thank everybody that's tuning in live to catch us, and if you're catching this on a repeat, we thank you as well. Kyle, how you doing, man?
Well, this is gonna sound super petty because you are on a 13-hour difference body clock, but I was invited onto a 5 a.m. like mortgage, like they do a Wednesday morning mortgage huddle with Jonathan Haddad.
Yeah.
And I taught on it this morning, so I've been up since 4:45, and I'm not feeling great, if I'm being honest.
So, you say you got up at 4:45 for a 5 o'clock training?
Yes, it's crazy.
I love it.
And I wanted to go back to sleep, but I was sweating so much after I was done teaching. I was like, man, I can't crawl back in bed now. My wife will be ticked. So here we are. But I'm still excited for this, even if my face doesn't always show it.
I am too. I think this session is going to be really impactful for folks to kind of arm themselves with a set of thoughts and tools even as we exit 24 and into 25. And so joining us today, Michael Hammond and Scott Shang, two of our contributing authors in the Green Book.
The Green Book.
Thank you guys again for your awesome contributions. And we're going to get right into it because this is all about, technology process. But I think it's probably going to lean in heavily more to kind of some of the AI tools, and you two are right in the middle of this in your day job. So thanks for coming on.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Brian.
So, Michael, let's start with we'll start with you. And you're working with a lot of companies today, executives as well. And I'm just curious what, as we kind of exit 2024, what are some of the things that you learned and saw this year that you'd like to share with our audience?
From an AI perspective, I always like to lead with AI won't take your job. Someone who knows how to use it will. I think people can't put their head in the sand and think that AI is going to go away. It's going to impact every person in your company in one way or another. The analogy that I like to give is when I got started in the mortgage business, only executives at the tech company I was at had access to the internet.
Right.
Like, what? I mean, how long ago was that? It was 25, 30 years ago. And why was that? Well, bandwidth was expensive, but most of it was the same fears that I'm hearing about AI now. People are going to waste time and use it. There's confidentiality issues. There's privacy issues. Yeah, all of that's true. We just have to lean in and learn how to handle it. So what I have seen is companies are now starting to separate themselves for the ones that leaned in. Loan officers are starting to separate themselves by knowing how to use these AI tools and leverage them and do it in a smart, strategic, safe way. But you're starting to see companies that, because they've embraced AI, when the market turns, I think you're going to see those companies gobble up a lot of market share. And companies that have kind of put their head in the sand and hope that this would all go away are going to get left in the dust.
Love that. And then Scott, real quick for you, you're a lifetime mortgage guy, but you've spent, a lot of your time in the last 12 to 18 months outside of mortgage, right?
Yeah.
And still connected within mortgage. I'm curious, if you compare and contrast our industry with some of the others that you've been focused on, how are you seeing, AI kind of get adopted? And is there a difference in adoption outside of mortgage today?
I don't think so. And I don't think it's AI is completely agnostic. Like it is the electricity that powers the ideas that business leaders have. And I'm seeing the exact same thing. I couldn't agree more with what Michael said. Seeing the exact same thing. I think the biggest challenge with business owners and almost everybody, except for maybe me and Michael, is things change so quickly. What the heck am I supposed to be paying attention to? right? That's the thing. And I think the biggest challenge with that is I still think that most people think that AI is a solution and they're searching around for a problem to apply it to.
Mm.
And that's putting the cart before the horse. AI is not a solution. It is a amplifier. It is it's a tool to make what you are already good at, make you even better at that. It's not going to do something you can't already do. So I think people are starting to figure this stuff out. As they kind of went in and they used it like a search engine and they said, oh, this is crappy. And then they started, they got the green book and they started seeing a couple different perspectives on how to use it. And now I think people are starting to really take it seriously. Like Michael said, you're starting to see separation of people that embraced it. And one of the best quotes I heard, I don't remember who it was, some influencer said, your employees are using AI, whether you know it or not. So you might as well introduce it to them and give them guardrails and guidance on how to use it, because they're already using it. You need to go in there and make sure you understand how they're using it, because it's everywhere.
Love that. Kyle, you've got, within your businesses, you guys are using AI, right? You're using different flavors of AI, right? And so, while we're on this kind of thread of what we're seeing, what are some of the ways your team's using some of the AI tools to improve efficiency, effectiveness?
Well, I can't speak to all the different ways that I'm sure, like what Scott just said, that my team's using it in ways that I'm not even aware of. That's probably not a great answer. But I can tell you, for me personally, yesterday, we're in one of my companies, we're trying to really like get our SOPs in order and make sure our processes are what they need to be, and then dial the CRM in based on what those necessary processes are and create that automation. And so I was just playing around in Perplexity yesterday, just saying, I'm the CEO of a company called Higher Culture. We work with virtual assistants, connecting them to American-based companies. What does a good process look like from meeting someone at an event to landing them as a client? And then boom, it just floods me with all different options. And what I love about Perplexity is it also sources everything that it pulled the data from. So I don't have to wonder, is this legit? Did it, where did this come from? It gives you all that. And then now I get to go through and kind of pick and choose like what I like, what I don't like. And then I can go back in with what I like and throw that in there. And then I can even say like, what ideas would Alex Hermosi have about our flow? And then it's going to go grab his books and any blog posts he's written and then give me his perspectives. When somebody yesterday probably paid him $100,000 to sit in a room with him, and I'm kind of ripping him off using AI. And I don't even think we're using it to the best of our ability. Like we're just scratching the surface. But in a simple way, like that's how it works for me. When my brain doesn't feel creative, I love to plug AI into my creativity and then let AI help me go, oh, that's a great idea. And then I can get it a little bit deeper. So I like using it as that nudge, that starting point, because I'm not a natural problem solver instantly. So, and again, I'm so stupid compared to both Michael and Scott, but that's a dumbed down way that we're using AI all the time.
Well, I'll give you a practical use. It's relevant. I just returned from a week in Tokyo, right? So never been to Japan. A friend of mine in the industry, she had spent, 2 or 3 weeks in Tokyo and the surrounding areas. So and this was probably within a year or so ago. So she kind of knew, she had a good recommendation of what I should do. And she knew my time block. I had basically 6 full days. in Tokyo, 4 of those days had a baseball game interspersed. And so she went into AI. I'm not sure what platform she used, but she went in and said, I want to create an itinerary for a friend that's going to Tokyo. Based on my experience, I went and saw X, Y, and Z. And so she created this document for me, this itinerary that took her own, experience up. And there's Kate on there smiling because that's who did it. Thank you, Kate. So it took Kate's recommendations and then added onto it. And I'll say this: we use that itinerary is what we use for our week there, including a day trip to Kyoto, and it was amazing. I mean, just the power of taking someone's experience and then amplifying it with a tool like that. And so I never thought in a million years to use AI or ChatGPT or any other tools to create a travel itinerary, but I'm here to say it's pretty powerful.
Hey, Brian, you need to rethink everything.
I know. Trust me, I do. I sure do.
So I want to know. And this is a very selfish question for me. So I apologize if nobody else finds value in it. But you both of you are really smart in ways that most people are not. I would even go as far as to say that most people are stupid in the way that you both are brilliant. And so what is a way that you're leveraging AI that you would be pretty certain very few people that would watch this have even considered?
Wow, you really set that bar super high for us, Scott. I don't know if you want to jump in first or if you want me to go, but I mean, Kyle really set that bar high for us to deliver something phenomenal here. So
you're welcome.
You want to take it or do you want me to go first, Scott?
Go ahead.
All right. So Kyle, you ask a great question. Is there ways that people are using AI or not even thinking of using AI? I think you and Brian gave some real good examples. And when we talk about loan officers, one of the biggest pain points I see is they know they need to create content. They know they need to have a personal brand, but they didn't become a loan officer to be a marketing content creator and a graphic designer. So some of the ways that I think you can use and loan officers can leverage AI that maybe they're not fully using it, because one of the biggest hurdles that I hear from loan officers, well, I don't want to sound like AI. Okay, great. All of us can tell when somebody just dropped something into AI. The perfect example I'll give you is Dwell. None of us in our everyday conversation use the word dwell. So soon as I see somebody post and say, well, let's delve into this topic, I'm like, ding, 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 ding. They're using AI. So one of the first ways that I would say that is simple that people are not using AI that they could, there's prompts out there. I have a prompt. I'm more than happy to share it after this. People can DM me on LinkedIn and I'll share it. And you can just drop a prompt in after all of your other prompting, so you don't sound like AI, and it will take out words like dwell and dazzle and some of the other common words. That's just a simple example of how you can use AI to not sound like AI, to use it better. Phone calls and analyzing phone calls and sentiment analysis is another way that I'm seeing it being used in mortgage that can be very, very helpful. And the best example I can give you is when the AI is helping you be more human than the human was on the actual phone. And the example that I have heard and used is on the phone call, the person was saying that they had just lost a dear friend who passed away. And they had mentioned it 1 or 2 times during the phone call. And the loan officer was like, yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that. So can I get your information? Can I start getting your credit information? And they kind of go right into that. And the AI engine was listening to that and basically gave them prompts, the LO, to say, you need to personalize this much more and tune into this person because they lost a loved one and it is very hard for them. And so I think when people think AI, they don't realize that in many ways AI could help us be more human, to be more empathetic, could tune into people. So those are two simple examples, and I'll turn it over to Scott, and then we can jump into deeper examples of where people are using AI that they've never thought of. But those are just two simple ones that I think can have a big impact on how people are approaching and using AI.
Those are awesome. I should have gone first. Excuse me, steal all my stuff. No, that's good. And this is what I love is people that spend a lot of time in AI. We're seeing the same things and we're going the same direction. So I was a content creator when I started to find my way home in 2007. I wrote blog posts, and one of the things that I realized very early is that if you are a transparent content creator, you have no competition online. Now, there may be other people sharing their expertise and their experience, but they are not you. So if you're publishing that information on a regular basis, and I think that rule applies to AI. Again, AI isn't going to make us something that we're not. It's going to make what is already unique about us even better, more efficient. It's going to save us time. If you talk about content creation, so, I think my advice is I would spend less time chasing prompts, and because when you use somebody else's prompt, you're using somebody else's perspective on how you should approach this issue, and that's not you. That's somebody else. So I just encourage people to experiment with it. I personally don't think that prompting is as important as people think, and I think it's become less and less important. You see it with the new ChatGPT model. They actually recommend you don't prompt it very much. You just give it a high-level task and let it figure out how to do it. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges I see people do is they over-prompt. They try to tell ChatGPT exactly how to do something, and then it does it. And then they're like, well, that's garbage. Well, that's what you told it to do. Like, you gave it restraints. You didn't let it do its thing. So probably the biggest thing that I use it for, that I think everybody can use it for, is I use it for a lot of brainstorming and introspection. Because at no other time, especially as entrepreneurs, we've got all these ideas floating around in our head. And typically, and you guys are all creators, we get an idea, it tumbles around enough until we have enough confidence to share it with somebody, and then somebody will listen to it and they'll say, that's a good idea, or that's a bad idea. So there's your feedback loop. So now you have a different perspective on your idea, and you can proceed with your idea in that way. At no other time in history have we been able to do this. Now we can go to AI, we can free-form train of thought, just put it in there and get instant feedback or reflection. I call AI a mirror to our imagination and our intent, because it shows us back what we're putting into it, and then you can make choices and you make decisions, and you can advance those ideas faster than we've ever been able to do before. But Kyle, you talk about blank page syndrome. AI is absolutely the best. This is who I am. This is my issue. Give me some ideas. Boom, juices are flowing. Right, instant.
Yep.
So those are a couple of things that I think people can separate themselves with.
So Scott, I'm gonna pick on you just because of what you and I've been doing for a while together, which is mostly me just spending 30 to 45 minutes every Thursday picking your brain on all things AI. So you spent quite a bit of time building a GPT for this brainstorming concept that you just talked about.
Yeah.
And by the way, I use that just about every day. Just so you know. Talk us through a little bit. Talk us through how you created. You don't have to give away the store, but like the process that you went through to create that brainstorming GPT, and how easy or difficult it could be for someone else to do something similar.
Okay. Well, I had a specific problem that I was trying to solve, and it was in the mortgage industry. Actually, it was, how can we use I wanted to know are there insights in NMLS production data that I'm not seeing that I can share with a mortgage company? So can we take production numbers from, Redder, MMI, whatever you get, all the LO production numbers. And I was trying to figure out what kind of insights can I extract from this data, because I'm stuck. And so I started going through it. So in all fairness, I wrote a GPT that's a GPT builder. So I don't write prompts. I have a in-depth conversation with this GPT, and it's actually trained on OpenAI's advanced prompting techniques. And so it's asking you questions in order for you to answer for it to get all of the data points to construct an advanced prompt. And so I went back and forth with the brainstorming tool, or I went back and forth with the prompt builder, and I was just like, how do I create this brainstorming tool? And I'll be honest with you, the thing that I focused most on was user experience. So I wanted it to be proactive. And I see so many people don't understand that piece of the AI. Like if they're building tools for other people to use, so I have all of them. So it's as easy. You know this, Brian. You click let's get started and then game over. You're just engaging. You're just interacting and you're playing. You never have to think. All brainstorming tools, my best tip for a brainstorming tool, and you could build a brainstorming tool just with this, just ask it to use the Socratic method to challenge your ideas. That's it. So you give it a question, you ask it a question, or you give it something, it's going to ask you a question to make you think more deeply about that. So I mean, that's what I did. I mean, that prompt actually took about 2 hours to hash out everything that I wanted it to do. Because as you know, it asks you, do you have a new idea, or do you have an idea you just want to beat the crap out of? And then it'll go each way. And I didn't know this, I learned this while trying to build this. There are different brainstorming models, brainstorming frameworks. So I said to ask a bunch of questions, then determine what's the best framework to come to the best conclusion. And there's like all these different frameworks for brainstorming. Like some of them are word association, right? Like it throws you words and you're supposed to just react to it. But it was a very in-depth experience of trying to describe to it what I wanted the experience to be. Not what I wanted it to do, but what I wanted the experience to be. What am I going to get out of this? And that brainstorming tool is kind of one of my favorite, and that changed. I'd always built custom GPTs so that they were no-brainers. I guess another recommendation, another suggestion I would tell people is in order to do that, the user experience piece of it, when you have conversation starters, know that this is in ChatGPT, if you're building a custom GPT, the conversation starter is the prompt. So don't put stuff in conversation starters that are irrelevant to the conversation. I see that all of the time. I click let's get started, and then my instructions say, when the user says let's get started, do this and start the conversation and be proactive through it. So I don't know, did that answer your question? I think people can absolutely do it. But I think you really gotta think, you have to think differently. You have to really understand what this technology is. It's not something we learn and use. It's something that we learn how to use, because there is no one application for it. Did that answer your question?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay.
and created about a dozen additional questions. But before I go down that path, Michael, anything to weigh in on what Scott said here?
Scott, you brought up so many good insights. And I think what I would just say is, for some of those who haven't got to the point where they're building out their own custom GPTs and doing that, I still see a lot of loan officers who really don't even know where to get started. They
Mhm.
they don't know what to do with AI. And I think the first thing, and Brian, you gave a great example. Kyle, you gave a great example. Start using the tools, play around with those, find out which ones work better for you. And I think as AI continues to morph, we've all got to remember that the AI we're using today is the worst it will ever be.
Yes.
It's only going to get better from here. So try Perplexity, try ChatGPT. Even if you have been using chat for a while, try Gemini, try Claude. Depending on what you're using it for, I'm finding I was working on creating a new website for a client, and I actually used all 4 engines when I was coming up with the content, and I found that each of them had their strength. Claude was probably a little bit better for some of the actual marketing content and writing. Kyle, to your point with Perplexity, I love that it gives me those references and I know where the content and insights are coming from. I hadn't used Gemini much before that, but it brought great clarity. Like, instead of saying something in 15 words, if it could say it in 4 and it would be very impactful, it did it and it gave it to me in 4. And so what I found is you can grab the result from Perplexity, drop it in and say, Claude, how would you improve upon this? Drop that into Gemini. And I think as you start playing around with those engines, you find what works for you. And each loan officer is different. Each social platform that they're creating content for is different. But start using and embracing these tools, because it all comes back to early on. The people in your company are using them, whether it's for content creation, whether it's developing code, whether it's trying to document the code, however, they're using these tools. So it's better to have an environment that you lean in and embrace those. And then most importantly, start putting in some guardrails. I think that's going to be one of the biggest frontiers in 2025 is as these companies start to separate, we've got to have some guardrails. I was doing a training with some LOs about 2 weeks ago, and this guy was all excited about AI, and he had tried a lot of the stuff we've been talking about, and then he made this one statement that scared the bejeebies out of me. He's like, man, I'm trying to automate this. I've got the borrower's application, and so I'm going to drop it into ChatGPT.
No.
Like, stop. Don't do that. There's confidential information. There's private information. So what I think is going to happen in 2025 is as more and more people are leaning in and finding the power of these tools, we also are in a very heavily regulated industry, and we've got to learn what are those guardrails and what are the ways that we have to embrace and use these tools, but do it in a very professional and ethical way.
Yeah, what I would add to that, Michael, these are such good points. What I would also add to that is please go out there and experiment, because so 97% of us are going to use AI when it's integrated into the software systems that are already use in your business.
Yep.
So, but you're not going to understand how that functionality improves your experience in that platform if you don't start to learn what this technology does and what it enables you to do. So you don't have to piece all of this stuff together. Like Michael and I, absolutely. I'm using 4 platforms. I got tabs open. I'm comparing answer to answer. Most people aren't going to have the time or the patience to do that, but still go in there and play with it. Do simple things with it and just start to get familiar with it and learn how it works. So I did this with a consulting client. We were talking, we were exporting sales data, analyzing sales data to expand his physical newsletter based on engagement. And so we were doing analytics on his stuff. And so we were using AI to do a bunch of business analysis. And then his business operations platform that he runs his whole business on just integrated an entire suite of AI tools, and they did a sweet job of it. But because we've already been talking about it for 6 months, like we didn't even miss a step. Like we had already been talking about all this stuff. They integrated it, and then we're like, cool, we're going to set it up. So I'm flying out to his place in 2 weeks. We're going to sit down for a day, and we're just going to integrate everything and connect all of the dots. So yeah, I mean, there's just so much but you just got to get started, because yeah, it's going to be scary and it's not going to be what you expected at first, but you got to keep doing it. You just got to keep doing it, and you got to keep playing with it. And yeah, I don't know. It's there's so much opportunity. There's no excuse for anybody to be afraid of it. Like it's Michael, you said in the very beginning, it's not. This isn't a fad. AI is everywhere now. It's permeated every segment of society, and it's going to continue to. It's going to continue to permeate those areas.
Kyle, your looks like your brain's racing here.
Yeah, I've just been thinking about how do we bring really smart people onto this call right now, but then also dumb it down for 99.9% of the people that are listening. And so I compare AI to two things. I think it's very similar to parenting. When I'm parenting my kids, there's times that I'm frustrated because I swear what I'm saying is the right thing and what they're computing back to me is not the right thing. And then there's other times that I have to go, well, wait a second. Yeah, what I asked my kid to do, I did not explain well. And so I really got what I ultimately asked for because I didn't communicate well. And so we don't get to quit parenting, right? We don't. Now, kind of, I could call my parents and be like, if y'all don't get these kids today and keep them until tomorrow, like something bad's going to happen to somebody in this house. But at the end of the day, I have to come back to parenting. And so I think to some degree, we have to treat this as a relationship that we do not have full control over, that we're learning one another, right? Like we're having to teach it about us. And so it's always moving. It's always changing. And that's frustrating to a lot of people, but it is what it is. But then the other side to this is, so last summer I was in Vegas and I was in like the really massive Ferris wheel that was right by the Sphere. And so we're up above the Sphere, and the Sphere has a whale on it, and then it changes to something else. And I can feel my brain like not even understanding what I'm seeing, because there's never been anything like the Sphere before. And so my brain is like, how are we looking at the ocean? There's not an ocean, but there's a whale in an ocean. It looks just like the real thing. And I think for me anyway, when I try to wrap my mind around what AI is, I don't think our brains truly even understand what it is. That it has access to pretty much every data point in the world.
Yeah.
If I had a friend that graduated top of their class at Harvard, right, and lived next door to me, you better believe I'd be over at his house all the time, picking his brain, asking him questions, because I know for a fact he's way smarter than me. Well, now we have that friend living in our pocket. And so we just have to understand, at least for me, again, I'm dumbing this down. You know, Scott and Michael can both be like, dude, this guy, why is Kyle even on here? Right. But I have to constantly remind myself, like, I don't have to understand this to be playing with it.
To experience it.
Right.
Exactly.
Like, I don't get parenting. I've been a parent for 12 years. I suck at it at least half the time. But I keep working at it, and hopefully one day I'm going to get better, right? And so I think people just have to set a very strong baseline for what this is, so that then you can take action appropriately. Because I could easily listen to both of you guys talk and go, yeah, I don't know what to do. I'm not leveraging at that level, you know? I asked it what I should eat at Disney World when I go there in February, you know? So that's pretty cool. So I just, you know, I hope that like those two thoughts will kind of help normal people just realize like, this is okay.
Well, and I think, Kyle, you make a great point that we don't have to understand all that AI is doing in the background, We just got to start using the actual tools. I'll give you an example because I think it all comes down to lifelong learning and curiosity.
Right.
That's how I started using a lot of AI over a year or so ago. Teaching a class, and a student said, "Hey, Michael, have you ever used HeyGen?" I'm like, "No, I don't know what the hell HeyGen is." "Oh, it's this cool AI video tool. You should try it out." So what did I do? After the class, I went and tried it out.
Yep.
Have any of you guys used HeyGen?
Nope.
Yes,
Super
I have.
freaking
Yeah,
cool.
it's awesome.
So what you do is, I'm like, it took me 5 minutes to set up HeyGen, and it asks you for like 2 or 3 minute video of something you've recorded. Okay. And then you can put in any script you want into that tool. So my wife comes home one evening and I'm like, "Hey, check out this." She goes, "You do videos all the time. What do you want me to watch it for?" I'm like, "No, just watch this one." She watches it. She goes, "Oh, it's good. It's a little long, but it's good." I'm like, "Cool." She goes, "Why are you asking?" I go, "Because I didn't record any of that." HeyGen did all of that for me.
Yeah.
Now, first, I want to put in context, any of the videos that I'm putting out there, I'm actually putting them out there and I'm not using HeyGen. But to your point, Kyle, of how can we use some of these tools to make it easy? Well, if I was in charge of training at a lender site, I'd use HeyGen and I could have 15, 20, 30, 40 training videos done in about an hour, because all I've got to do is type up the script, and I could use AI to help me with that script writing, drop that into the tool, and now instantly I have a whole video library to help onboard or to help continue in education for my loan officers.
Yeah.
They don't have to know how HeyGen did it. I don't know how HeyGen did it, but guess what? That is a simple application of being able to embrace some of these tools and looking for ways then, or what are some of the problems I can solve. A lot of lenders struggle with onboarding and having these huge files of getting somebody on board and learn how to use it. Great. Synthesize that down, put it into a tool like a HeyGen, have a video, and now you have a video library to bring people on board quicker, faster, and in a more meaningful way.
Well, and then to build on top of that, Michael, in HeyGen specifically, like in Texas where I am, right, we're seeing trends that like in the next 10 years, half of the state of Texas will speak Spanish. And the buyer community is becoming much heavier Spanish speaking. And so I could take all those videos that I recorded in English, and HeyGen like that is going to put me speaking perfect Spanish for all 40 of those videos.
Great example.
And so now I can attract bilingual loan officers with those videos. I can have buyer videos that are fully done in Spanish to attract the Spanish speaking community. And so wherever you live, if you live in a community where there's like a lot of people from Germany that speak German, right? You could instantly dub those videos into German. It's unbelievable what the capabilities are out there. And so that's so good.
Yeah, and I think part of this is a good example of thinking of AI as a solution and looking for a problem to apply it to. You have to have already been thinking about streamlining your onboarding process. So leadership had to have already gotten together. And so always think AI first. If I have this task, where can AI make this more efficient or make this easier? And AI, don't think AI is going to just hand you the answer. I think Michael said this. It's going to give you 80 to 90% of the answer, and then you're going to spend a quarter of the time it would have taken you to put it in your voice, edit it, make it look nice, or rearrange it or whatever. It's a head start is what it is. It's not an easy button, but it's definitely a head start on everything you have to do. But you have to already be thinking, I want to go after a multilingual audience. How do I approach that? Then you go, what are the tools that I would use for that? In an effort to really, really dumb this down, it's not dumbing it down. It's putting in your reps so you're no longer afraid of it. That's really all it is, right? So until you're demystifying it. I think ChatGPT is still by far the leader. If you Pareto it, ChatGPT is so far ahead of everybody else. Everybody else is trying to add the features that ChatGPT has, learn that platform. That platform has web search, so it has that. I think it's even better than Perplexity. That's a brand new feature. It has the voice app that is absolutely an unbelievable experience talking to AI, completely different than typing to AI. It allows you to add attachments. It does images. It'll create charts. Start there. Start with ChatGPT. I think it's the easiest. I think it's the most. It's the easiest to understand. It's the most intuitive, and by far, it's still the leader. But then when you dive into it, you're going to find that Claude's going to do better at certain types of writing, and Gemini's going to do better at certain types of research. And you're going to find different platforms will do different things. But don't get overwhelmed. It's not hard, and it's actually super fun as soon as you realize that it's not as complicated as you thought it was going to be. Here's an easy one. Go to your refrigerator, take a picture of your top shelf, and ask ChatGPT to give you recipes based on those ingredients. Let's see what happens.
Wow.
That's a real thing. I'm not joking.
That sounds like a good YouTube channel that's worth checking out.
Right?
So in the last few minutes, here's what I'd love to do, guys. Is we've got our audience primarily made up of loan officers. We're in the home stretch of 2024. Thanksgiving week is upon us, so we're going to come out of Thanksgiving and have about 4 weeks before the holiday season kicks in, right? Michael Scott. Michael Scott? I didn't mean to call you guys Michael Scott, but I spent 12 hours on a plane from Tokyo and watched a lot of The Office. So Michael Scott is in the top of my brain. What would be one or two things a loan officer who hasn't touched ChatGPT, let's just start there, could do over the next 3 to 4 weeks to set them up for a productive start of the year, start of 2025? Michael, why don't you go first?
So I think the first thing, and Scott, you mentioned this, is you got to start using the tool. So start with chat. You don't have to know all the other platforms. And let's just start thinking about what are some of the things that you can do to improve engagement. Okay. Help me write 10 social media posts for first-time home buyers. Quick, that's simple, that's easy, right off the top of their head. Help me create a first-time home buyer's guide. What are the 4 most common questions that first-time home buyers ask? Or builders, or how do I better work with divorce attorneys? Whatever your niche is, some of the questions that you have in your mind, start asking the tool so that you start seeing the feedback that's coming. And then what you're going to do is you're going to tweak it. You may say, hey, it gave me 10 social posts. Out of those 10, 6 of them I like, and I really only going to change a word or two. Those other 4, there's no way in hell I'd ever use those, but I see where it was kind of going. But I think you've got to get started. Use the tool. The best way for simplicity is it's just like Google when you're doing a search on steroids, right? Start using AI that way and understanding it. Quote I saw, and I don't know who to attribute it to, last week or so, was clarity equals velocity. If they want to grow a lot faster in 2025, they've got to start getting some clarity on how to use these tools from now until the end of the year.
That's good.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would say, again, what would you normally be doing in December? And I think most people are kind of reflecting on their business from last year, and they're trying to work on planning for the next year. One of the great things about AI is you can ask it how to ask it. Right. So, and this is a mental hurdle that you have to get over. I would go to it and I would say, I am a loan officer in this state. I've been doing all of this. I'm trying to think about how to integrate AI to improve my business in 2025. Where should I start? That easy. And then see what it comes back with. And then it'll ask you, do you want me to drill into some of these things? Do you want to explore this? And have a conversation with it. What I find is when you can sort of suspend reality and you kind of get lost in the conversation and you forget that it's a technology. That happens to me all the time. You just get lost in the conversation, and that's because you're invested in the engagement. And Kyle, the story that you told, one of the things that I'm most enthusiastic about is I think that after a couple of generations of TikTok kids, we're going to have generations of kids that are going to learn how to more concisely communicate their ideas and their thoughts and their feelings, because that's going to give them the best response with this technology, which is going to be inseparable as they grow up. We think we carry around these phones and watches and stuff now. It's going to be anytime you have any question, you're going to ask your personal AI, right? And it's just going to have a conversation with you. So that's what I would say is try a business planning exercise. And you don't tell it who you are, tell it what you're trying to do, even tell it what state or what market you're in, tell it the things that you tried last year, and then just say, I would love some ideas on what I should be thinking about, and just see what it comes back with, and then engage in a conversation.
I love it.
Love it. Great stuff, guys. Kyle, anything to close us out with, man?
No, I have nothing. There's zero reason for me to
Are
add
you
anything.
more or less awake, Kyle?
So I am plenty awake, but there is, after 46 minutes, it's obvious that I have nothing to add to this conversation that these two have not already done incredibly well. So appreciate both of you guys so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
everything you continue to do for all of us in the industry, and for the audience. Thanks for tuning in on this Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I hope everybody has a great holiday weekend, and go Lions.
Woo!
See you, everybody.
Take care, guys.
You guys.